Welcome to Seasons of Grace, your daily dose of inspiration. As we journey through the Great Fast, we'll be reading selections from Father Jack Custer's book, Back to the Garden, a Lenten Journey Through Genesis.
Tuesday of the second week of the Great Fast. We read from the book of Genesis, chapter 4, verses 8 through 15. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries unto me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall not yield unto you her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall you be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from your face shall I be hidden. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that finds me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore, whoever slays Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Cain does not do well. He indulges the whispered counsel of his own resentment and is mastered by it, allowing the unspeakable to be given full expression. Yet, after being questioned by God, Cain evades speaking plainly, unwittingly diagnosing his own disorder. Am I my brother's keeper? For a moment, we get a glimpse into all that was left unsaid in the beginning of the story. God had no regard for Cain's offering, because Cain had no regard for Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? Cain permitted his self-centeredness to usurp his brother in that privileged place at the door of his heart. At the critical moment of rejection and humiliation, it was not love for Abel that mastered his heart, but that crouching and resentful, wounded self. As the story moves along, we are reminded of our reading from Proverbs chapter 5, verse 12. How I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. Interestingly enough, God does not curse Cain, but rather he simply declares the consequences of Cain's actions. Cain is cursed from the ground because of Abel's blood, and he will therefore now fail as a farmer, destined to wander upon the earth. Cain cries out in desperation, unable to bear the prospect of this wandering. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Cain hates this discipline and despises this reproof. God's assessment of the situation sounds for all the world to Cain like the pronouncement of a death sentence spoken by the sternest of judges. God immediately corrects Cain, not so. God marks Cain as a sign of mercy, as a pledge to accompany Cain in his wandering. Suddenly, what first seemed to be a harsh punishment for the crime of murder is transformed into a redemptive discipline. God will not abandon Cain in his wandering. The doom of wandering itself takes on new and subtle possibilities. If Cain embraces this discipline, redemption becomes a real possibility. Abel was a shepherd. In order to care for his flock, he was forced to wander from place to place, always attentive to the bleating voices of his flock. Abel's experiences had taught him to have regard for the needs of others. As a tiller of the ground, Cain had never learned the more difficult task of listening. He failed to cultivate regard for the needs of others. This is why Abel's offering was accepted and Cain's was not. The rejection of Cain's offering was a subtle hint from God, an invitation to learn what makes sacrifice acceptable. A heart that regards the needs of others. What God is now asking Cain to do is take up the wandering life of his brother. God's discipline is never to punish, but to correct and restore. God will not leave Cain to do this redemptive work alone, but rather accompany him. And this is all a great foreshadowing. One day, God will come in the flesh to his wandering people and take up their wandering himself. Foxes have their dens, and the birds of the air have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. From the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 8, verse 20. In Psalm 141 we pray, "If a just man strikes me or reproves me, it is kindness." Have you ever experienced that sort of rebuke clearly done out of kindness? How did it help you? Can you recall any experiences that may have been God's loving discipline? What did you learn from it? How did it change you for the better? Where do you struggle most against the Lord's discipline in your life right now? Pray for the humility and the wisdom to accept it and to learn the lesson.
Thank you for listening to Seasons of Grace. If you would like to send this episode to a friend or listen again, please visit godwithusradio.org. You can also find previous and future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and almost everywhere podcasts are available. A special thank you to Eastern Christian Publications for their permission to present Back to the Garden in this format.